So far, 14 million people have already voted early as Americans in 8 more states started to cast their ballots today. Joining us now, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles, who is at the moment on Highway 45 in Texas on his way to an event for Senator Ted Cruz. You just spoke to Congressman Colin Allred, who wants to replace Senator Ted Cruz. Tell us about the state of that race and the state of early voting.
Yeah, this is the first day of early voting in Texas, Katie. It comes just a little more than 2 weeks before Election Day. And we saw huge lines at the polling location that we went to just outside Dallas. And the poll workers there were even surprised at the volume and consistency of those long lines. It wasn't as if they were just dealing with an early morning rush or a lunch rush. The lines were long consistently the entire time. Now, that's probably because it was the first day and people were anxious to get out and cast their ballot. In fact, Colin Allred, who you mentioned, is challenging the incumbent Ted Cruz in that race for Senate, was among those casting his ballot today. And these voters that we talked to who were in line today say that they're anxious to make sure their vote is heard, and that in this year in particular, they believe that there is a lot at stake. Take a listen to what some of them told us. In general, Texas has not been super competitive at the national level.
No.
Yeah. Do you feel like this year could be different?
I hope so. I've done some volunteering and I've talked to some people and found that more people are activated this time around.
Do you feel like people are really engaged? Are people talking about the election a lot? Do you find when you're at church or at work or at school, or are people sick of it? Are they ready for it to be over with?
I think people
all
are.
All the above.
Yeah.
I think they're sick of it and they're talking about it.
Yeah.
True.
And that was pretty consistent with all of the voters that we talked to today. And that Senate race in particular is drawing a lot of attention. For a long time, Democrats have felt that they could turn Texas blue. They're not really competing at the presidential level here, but there have been tens of millions of dollars that have flooded into the state as part of this competitive Senate race, including an injection of cash from the Senate Majority PAC, which is a Democratic-leaning super PAC that's going to throw multi-million dollars into this race in the 11th hour. It would still probably be a surprise if Colin Allred were to win, Katie, but it's one of the only opportunities that Democrats have to pick up a seat in a map that is very difficult for them if they want to hold on to the majority in the United States Senate. Katie.
All right, Ryan Nobles, thank you very much. Joining us now, senior editor and elections analyst with the Cook Political Report, Dave Wasserman. Can we focus on Texas for just a moment? It's going to be a case study, I feel like, going forward because of the incredibly strict abortion laws in that state. And we just saw with that graphic that more women have so far voted. 50% of the vote is Democrat. The other, 43% is Republican, with 7% unaffiliated, it appears from that graphic I was watching. Do you think Texas is actually in play? Could it be a case study going forward?
Well, first of all, Katie, it's hazardous to read anything into early voting data because we don't know who these people are voting for, and it doesn't tell us anything about what the nature of the final electorate will be once Election Day votes are cast. But Texas is a legitimately competitive Senate race because Ted Cruz is a uniquely polarizing figure who went to Cancun in 2021, and Colin Allred is raising just about as much money as Beto did 6 years ago. Cruz is raising more than he did 6 years ago. Ultimately, the difficulty for Allred is that we're not seeing the levels of support among Hispanic voters, particularly in South Texas or along the border in some of these polls that Democrats would need. And to win statewide, which Democrats haven't done since 1994, they need everything to go right.
All right. What about the rest of the country? Almost all of the states are early voting right now. Are there any indicators that you can suss out 2 weeks away?
Well, the only indicator from these record-breaking early voting turnout data is that among the people who are paying closest attention to this election, it's like a new iPhone going on sale. People cannot wait to get to the polls. But when we're looking at surveys in these 7 battleground states, the polling is so tight that polls aren't precise enough to really be able to tell us who's ahead. And the one commonality is that neither Trump nor Harris is at 50% in the averages in any of these 7 states, which begs the question, who the heck are these undecided people who still cannot make up their minds 2 weeks out from Election Day? And in our research, what we know is that they skew younger, they skew a little bit more diverse, and they skew a little bit more female than the rest of the electorate. But they are also less college educated. They're overwhelmingly independents. and they hold very negative views of both candidates. And in our last battleground survey, 68% of them say they view Kamala Harris as too liberal to govern the country effectively. 70% of them say that Trump is too erratic and out of control to govern the country effectively. The warning sign for Harris, though, is that by 55 to 26, they trust Trump more than Harris to bring inflation under control, which means that her closing argument as the prosecutor in this race has to be about the economy and creating what she calls the opportunity economy more than, let's say, Liz Cheney and democracy arguments for the sake of winning those voters.
Really interesting point. Dave Wasserman. Dave, thank you very much.